Discover the amazing moment when a little girl cried, "Daddy, that's my brother." It changed Eve. On a clear, golden autumn afternoon in Pine Hill, Eve felt the weight of her empty home settle around her like a dense fog. The leaves danced freely outside, embodying the spirited laughter of her children, Lily and Max, but inside, the solitude pressed against her chest. Ever since her husband, a proud veteran, had marched off into the oblivion of war, her world had spiraled into a relentless struggle for survival. Bills crept like shadows, and her heart often felt hollow after long days working multiple jobs, trying to keep food on the table. Lily, a spirited girl with big, bright eyes, seemed to catch the sunlight wherever she went. One day, a frail Boy Scout appeared at their door, cookies in hand, and Lily's heart leapt. "Mom! Can we buy a box?" Her excitement was contagious, and despite the anxiety gnawing at Eve's belly, she felt the tug of her daughter's joy stronger than her worries. "Okay, sweetie," she replied, her smile a fragile mask covering the turmoil inside. As the community buzzed with plans for a fundraising event, Eve was torn. She wanted to foster kindness in Lily and Max, but she felt the tension of her own barely there finances squeezing her heart. How could she embody generosity when she herself was stretched so thin? That evening, surrounded by laughter and community chatter, Lily's voice rang out like a bell, slicing through the crowd. "Daddy, that's my brother," she shouted, pointing gleefully. A hush fell over the gathering. Curious glances turned toward the scrawny scout standing there, frozen, his face pale. The words hung in the air, rippling unease through the festive atmosphere. Eve's heart dropped. The boy, her boy, the product of a youthful mistake, stood before her now, the remnants of a past she thought were long buried. A wave of judgment swept over the crowd, intertwining with their prejudices, and she felt the air around her thickening with unsaid words. Maybe this is a chance for them to see, she thought, but the whispers began. What does she have to offer? One neighbor muttered, the skepticism weighing down like lead. Eve's skin prickled at the doubt lacing those words. Could she bear their judgment? Could the truth lead to acceptance? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Silence gripped the moment, shattering into a million expectations. The boy's eyes mirrored Lily's innocence, while Eve, caught in a whirlwind of clashing emotions, struggled to breathe. Could they find common ground? The smile on Lily's face reminded her that hope could spark even the darkest corners of their lives. If only the town could embrace this forgotten piece of Eve's story, she clung desperately to that thought. But as murmurs echoed and eyes narrowed, a sickening thought pulled at her heart. Would she be rejected, judged, shunned for mistakes that had once been her life? Resilience tightened her chest, heart racing as Eve realized she was at a crossroads, a moment where she needed to decide to embrace either the light of her past or the shadows of prejudice that loomed large. Would Pine Hill become a place of acceptance or a battlefield of judgment? Only time would reveal the truth. Eve's heart raced as the awkward silence spun out. The air thickened, split by a moment that felt both surreal and achingly real. She could hardly believe that the boy who stood quietly, caught between confusion and innocence, was her son. A decision loomed ahead, blurred by fear and uncertainty. Lily's eyes sparkled with unfiltered joy. "Mom, look! He's my brother." Her voice rang clear, echoing through the murmurs around them. Simultaneously, a flicker of anger and pride danced in Eve. How could her sweet girl be so brave, while she felt like crumbling? The neighbors had started to whisper, sharing glances as if hoping to decipher the unspoken truth. Shouldn't that girl know better? One muttered, glancing at Eve. Another nodded, skepticism lining their features. Ironically, this was the very community she had fought to be a part of, and yet, as they gazed at her with wretched pity, she felt a growing fissure between her and what they believed family should look like. Max, oblivious to the tension, tugged on Eve's shirt, his little fingers cold against her skin. "Mommy, who is that?" His wide eyes darted back between her and the boy. Not just her son, but a part of her history that had come crashing back with startling clarity. "It's complicated, darling," Eve managed, swallowing hard against the stubborn lump forming in her throat. She took a breath, steadying herself as the weight of many decisions fell heavy on her shoulders. Stepping forward, she drew in the breath needed for what felt like a confession. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Noah," she said, her voice wavering but firm. "He is my son, too." Gasps rippled through the crowd, sparking flurries among the gathered faces. Feigned smiles faded, replaced with expressions that spoke of confusion and criticism alike. Noah's eyes darted nervously between the crowd and Lily, who beamed with pride. I didn't know I had a sister," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "She looks just like you," Lily exclaimed, as if that could erase the weight of the moment, and in that instant, Eve felt a flicker of hope setting ablaze those heavy shadows. Could the innocence of her daughter's joy shatter the skepticism surrounding them? Eve embraced Noah's frail frame, the warmth of her son sinking deep into her heart. In this brief exchange, she found solace. Perhaps this was their moment to carve a different path, to take the chance to redefine what family meant. But then came a hiccup of doubt, chilling in the air. Would the town rally around them or cling to their preconceived notions? As she searched the faces in the crowd, some stared, still shocked, while others shifted uncomfortably, feigning indifference. What is going to happen now? She wondered, heart racing. The uncertain landscape of this newfound reality opened before her like an unpredictable maze. Just then, from the corner, a familiar voice rose, cutting through the chaos. "I think it's beautiful." A neighbor's enthusiastic reaction met the bewilderment that had wrapped around the gathering. "We're family too, right?" Internally, a spark ignited within Eve. If others could extend their arms, then perhaps they could create a web of connection that would blanket the whispers and defeat judgment. Yet, even as the initial threads began to connect, doubt crept in again. Were they prepared for the fight ahead? Would love be enough to bridge the divide? The sun dipped lower, casting elongated shadows of uncertainty as Eve understood that this was just the beginning. How would the town react when they realized the truth wasn't as simple as they thought? As hope wrestled with fear, a question loomed on the horizon: could they turn this gathering into a stepping stone for acceptance, or would it become the rallying point for rejection? The answer seemed fogged in uncertainty, but Eve knew deep down that they had no choice left but to step forward. The warmth of his embrace still lingered as she looked down at Noah, and a resolve began to build. "We're going to find out together." In that moment, a powerful truth spread through her. The fight for acceptance had just begun, and the choice to unite would be the first of many battles ahead. But would they have the strength to face what was to come? Eve's heart felt like it was caught in a tug-of-war. One pull was from her overwhelming desire to protect her children, and the other from the need to stand tall in front of the community that had watched her for years. She glanced over at Noah, who was still trying to make sense of this newfound family. His brow furrowed, mouth slightly agape, and in the next instant, he glanced down at Lily, who was bouncing on her toes, her excitement unabated. In that moment, Eve felt a rush of gratitude. Her brave little girl didn't see the mess of their past, she just saw her brother. Could that same kindness echo through the town, or was it a short-lived flicker in the shadows of judgment? "Do you want to play, Noah?" Lily suggested, her voice bright and carefree. She reached for his hand as if it were the most natural thing in the world. It struck Eve how easily Lily seemed to weave the family connections, as though they were nothing more than threads of a fabric that had always existed. Noah hesitated, glancing between his new sister and the crowd. He seemed vulnerable, as if unsure whether the warmth he felt could survive the coldness emanating from the stares aimed at him. "Yeah," Lily chirped, pulling him toward the swing set. "You're going to love it." Eve watched them rush off together, her heart swelling with both joy and trepidation. This was a beginning, but beginnings had a way of coming with their own challenges. "Are you okay?" A familiar voice chimed in beside her. It was Sarah, a longtime neighbor and friend, approaching slowly, eyes soft with concern. Eve felt herself teetering on an edge. "I don't know, is this okay? What will people think? What kind of life will Noah have?" "He'll have whatever you give him," Sarah replied firmly, her voice turning from concern to resolve. "Eve, you've always shown strength in the face of adversity. It's what makes you, you." That meant something to Eve. It grounded her amidst the whirlpool of voices and judgments swirling around. However, there was still an unsettling thought creeping in. What if this new venture broke them apart instead of bringing them together? As it did many times before, the sound of laughter pulled her from her thoughts. The children were gaining confidence, swinging and giggling, their carefree tones breaking through Eve's reservations like sunlight scattering darkness. The moment felt transformative, a snapshot of what could be. Yet, lurking just beneath that joy was the darker reality of hurtful words and harsh judgments. The world could be cruel, and she knew the whispers wouldn't stop after this sunny day. "Want to join us?" Lily called out, glancing back with an exuberance that lit up the world around her. Oh, how Eve wished it could always be like this, with innocence prevailing. With one last glance at the crowd, she fought through the uncertainty and took steps toward the swing set. "Yep, I'll push you," she shouted, trying to catch the spark of joy showcased on Lily's face. However, right as she turned, one sharp voice broke through, loud enough to quell the laughter. Isn't it amazing how quickly rumors spread? Eve turned sharply, searching for the voice, her heart thudding painfully in her chest. The speaker, a neighbor known for their biting remarks, smirked, drawing few nods from others nearby. Here we go, Eve thought, her heart sinking. As she felt Noah's small hand slip into hers, she knew that whatever happened next, she couldn't let them face it alone. "Mommy?" Noah whispered, noticing the change in her expression. "I'm right here," she said softly, looking down at him and noting the resolve in his eyes. "We're going to get through this together." But the question hung in the air, could a family formed on love really stand against the challenging tides of prejudice? Eve couldn't shake the feeling that the real test was yet to come. With the sun setting and shadows lengthening, they would have to confront the true nature of their connection and the world that surrounded them. Would they find strength in each other, or would the past echo too loudly? The laughter from the swings faded slightly, overtaken by a heavy silence. Eve felt the scrutiny of the crowd like a shroud, wrapping around her, squeezing the air from her lungs. She glanced at Noah, who still held her hand tightly, his eyes wide and innocent. What did he understand about this moment? Did he feel the tension in the air too? "Mommy, is everything okay?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Of course, sweetheart," she said, though it felt more a wish than a promise. Behind her smile was a knot of fear, tightening with each passing second. In that instant, Lily broke away from the swing and rushed over, her small frame nearly colliding with Eve's. "Look, Mommy. I was flying." She beamed, oblivious to the undercurrents threatening to drown them all. "And Noah was watching. He said I was really good at it." A flicker of pride broke through Eve's worry. "You were amazing, Lily." But the moment was shattered when the biting voice cut through the atmosphere again. "Flying to new heights, or is it straight to a bad decision?" It was Margaret, another neighbor, her arms crossed tightly, her expression a mask of disdain. Eve felt her stomach twist. She couldn't let this define them. "We're happy," she said firmly, glancing at the children. "Isn't that what matters?" Noah looked at her, uncertainty clouding his features, and all Eve wanted to do was shield him from the stares that felt like daggers. Happy, huh? Seems questionable when you've taken in a child not from your own blood, Margaret sneered, her eyes gleaming with judgment. Eve's heart raced. Noah is my son, just as much as Lily is. Family is about love, not just blood. The words spilled out, taking her by surprise. Would they penetrate the armor of judgment wrapped around the crowd? Gasps echoed softly in response, and for a fleeting moment, the tide felt like it could turn. But Margaret held her ground. Fair enough, but what do you think the rest of us will tell our kids? Hey, everything is normal, really. She scoffed. Maybe you should tell them the truth, a voice broke through. It was Sarah again, stepping closer to Eve's side. Families come in all shapes and sizes. We're teaching our kids to be accepting, not to judge. A wave of gratitude washed over Eve as she caught Sarah's unwavering gaze, but the crowd was still restless, murmuring amongst themselves. Noah looked back at Lily, who giggled as she tugged at her dress, oblivious to the conversation. Mommy? How come they're talking like that? His voice was small, and with each passing second, Eve could see little cracks forming in the confidence he had. Because they don't understand, honey, Eve replied softly, crouching down to meet his gaze. But that's okay. What matters is that you and Lily know love binds us together. She wanted to believe in her words, to feel the strength they promised. Just then, without cue, Lily's face lit up with a sudden idea. She turned to Noah with boundless enthusiasm. Hey, Noah. You know what would be fun? If we go show them how good we are at the big slide. Want to race? Noah's face broke into a small smile, his tension easing slightly as he nodded. Yeah. Let us race. Eve stood as they dashed off, her heart swelling with a mix of admiration and anxiety. Look at them, Sarah said, drawing Eve's attention. That joy, it's pure. Just watch what they can teach us. But the judgmental whispers still pulsed around them, a relentless reminder of the challenge that lay ahead. Would the innocence of their children's laughter be enough to drown out the negativity? Then, just as Eve started to hope, the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows. Mommy! Lily called from the slide's peak. Come watch us. It's the best. Eve felt a flicker of joy as she watched her children together, embracing the moment. Yet, in her heart lurked the truth, they could face their greatest challenge yet. And before the day was over, Eve wondered what new words would spill from those who had yet to see the love that connected them all. Could the innocent bond between her children transcend the harshness surrounding them? And would Eve find the strength in herself to embrace the love they all fought so hard to protect? Eve stood at the base of the slide, her heart racing. Each giggle from the top had a way of tugging gently at the corners of her lips, but the tension in her chest was still an unwelcome companion. She glanced back at the crowd, anxiety creeping back as she noticed a few parents sharing knowing looks, whispering to one another. What were they saying now? Were they still judging? Mommy, look! The excitement radiating from Lily was infectious as she flew down the slide, her laughter piercing the thick air. She landed with a thud on the ground below, her small frame bouncing back up instantly, her joy unwavering. Noah followed, taking a deep breath before pushing himself off with determination. As he glided down, Eve's own heart raced not just from love, but from a hint of worry. Would he face the same harsh remarks someday? Would his innocence be tarnished by the world around him? The question sat uneasily in her gut. Again. Lily squealed, tugging at Noah's shirt. Their shared excitement felt like a bright flame in the dimness surrounding them, reminding Eve that joy was always lurking beneath the surface. It was just a matter of finding it. As the two ran back to the slide, Sarah sidled up beside Eve. They're something, aren't they? She said, smiling softly. Just look at them. They don't care about what the world thinks. Eve returned the smile, but it quickly faded as clouds of doubt hovered over her thoughts. But what if they have to face it someday, Sarah? What if they grow up knowing that there are people who will see them differently? I can't protect them from everything. That's true, Sarah acknowledged, her voice steady. But you can give them the tools they need. Teach them to love themselves and each other. Encourage them to focus on what matters. It'll build their strength. Eve opened her mouth to respond but paused, watching as Noah, with renewed energy, challenged Lily to a race back up the slide. She admired their connection, the ease of their friendship, but what would happen when they faced reality together? Lily reached the top first, waving excitedly. "Simon Noah. Let us beat the world." Eve felt a lump in her throat at her daughter's innocent words. Could that attitude be enough? Could simple joy overcome the complex judgments of the adults? Then another voice, clearer and louder than the whispers surrounding them, broke through her thoughts. "Daddy, that's my brother." Eve turned sharply to find Lily, arms wide open, introducing Noah to the parents nearby. The proud shout had a way of echoing through the park, pulling eyes toward them, creating a charged moment that felt bigger than any previous one. "Just look at them," Sarah whispered with a chuckle. "It's like they're creating their own little world." Noah's cheeks flushed, a mix of surprise and delight at Lily's proclamation. He stepped forward, emboldened. "Yeah. I'm her brother. That means we're family." Eve felt her heart swell with pride, a bright light chasing away the shadows of doubt. In that moment, her children were showing the very world what family could mean. Their little hearts, open and honest, bursting with truth. But then, just as quickly, she saw Margaret's scowl from the sidelines, her arms still crossed, her face twisted in disdain. "There we have it, such a lovely little family," she scoffed, displaying the negativity that plagued Eve's thoughts. "Mommy?" Noah's small voice cut through her thoughts. "Yes, baby," Eve replied, kneeling to meet his gaze. "Can't we just be happy? Why can't they be happy for us?" Eve's heart sank. How could she explain the complexities of adult worries to a child who just wanted to play? More importantly, how could she teach him to stand strong against the storms of judgment looming over them? Around them, the murmurings began again, but Noah and Lily were oblivious. They stood hand in hand, grounding each other in a moment of laughter and love. Eve watched as the sun dipped lower, casting warmth over her children's smiles. Whatever lay ahead, in that moment, they had each other. But how long could that love withstand the harsh reality outside their little bubble? As she pondered this, a chill ran up her spine. Eve realized this was just the beginning. A wave of uncertainty washed over her. What new challenges would her family face? Would they stand together, or would the distance of judgment divide them? And then, in a sudden twist of fate, a new figure stepped into their world, a newcomer with a familiar face who could change everything. Eve barely had time to process the arrival of the newcomer when recognition washed over her. The figure moved through the crowd, weaving expertly between groups of children and parents, laughter floating in their wake. Her heart raced again, but this time it was different. The face she hadn't seen in years was bringing back a whirlwind of memories she had carefully tucked away. "Mark," she whispered to herself, her breath hitching. Noah and Lily continued their playful banter, while Eve stood riveted, aware of how time seemed to slow. That face, those warm brown eyes, the easy smile was an echo of the past she had long tried to ignore. Mark was her brother, her childhood protector and confidant who had vanished from their lives years ago. He looked older now, but still radiated the same energy that had always drawn people in. "Eve," he called out, his voice cutting through the park's din. Suddenly, the fragile bubble of her happiness felt ready to burst. The laughter of her children now mixed with anticipation. She forced a smile, but a knot formed in her stomach, reminding her of old wounds. Mark approached, arms outstretched, his enthusiasm palpable. "I can't believe it's you. Look at your kids, they're amazing." Lily, sensing the shift in her mother's demeanor, ran to him without hesitation. Are you my uncle? She asked, eyes wide with curiosity. A soft laugh escaped Mark as he knelt down, matching her excitement. I sure am. The best uncle you could ever have. Noah, still unsure of this stranger, clung to Eve's leg, every bit of him on high alert. Hey there, buddy. I'm Noah, he finally said, trying to sound brave. You're my uncle. Absolutely. Mark nodded, pushing any tension aside. You know what? I was just as brave as you when I was your age. I even went down the biggest slide at the park. Want to try it out with me? Noah's eyes widened with wonder, and for a moment, the fear melted away. Eve felt her heart clench at this jarring reunion. She wanted to pull Noah back, to keep him at her side, to tell him all the reasons her brother had been a ghost in their lives. But as she watched Mark engage with her children, the laughter and joy began to fill the space that had grown bitter over the years. What are you doing here, Mark? Eve asked, her voice scarcely above a whisper, the words heavy with unasked questions. I came back, he replied softly. I've missed you, and I want to be in your lives again. Eve couldn't contain the hint of skepticism. It was easy to say that now, but where had he been for so long? Could their family truly heal from the past? Meanwhile, Lily tugged at Mark's shirt, eyes alight. Can we go on the slide now? Please. Eve could see how hopeful and excited both her children were, how they instinctively accepted Mark without hesitation, even as uncertainty hung around her like a thick fog. Maybe, just maybe, this could be a chance to reclaim what had been lost. Mark reached for Noah's hand, who hesitated before accepting it. Let us go. He said, a spark of adventure igniting within him. Eve stayed behind, every instinct telling her to protect her children, to shield them from old scars. Yet she felt a different energy pulling at her heart, the possibility of new beginnings mingled with fear of old disappointments. Watching them together gave Eve hope, but doubt still loomed large. What if Mark wasn't ready for the responsibility of family life? What if the judgments they faced were only beginning? As she absorbed the moment, she couldn't shake the feeling that this new chapter could hold both joy and heartache in equal measure. As she gazed at her children and their newfound Uncle Mark, a thought struck her: could the bonds of family truly be rebuilt? And just like that, the questions began to rise anew, swirling in her heart. Mark turned back to her, his expression earnest. Eve, I know it's a lot to take in, but I want to make things right. Will you let me? Suddenly, the laughter around them felt fragile, hanging on the edge of a vital decision. Eve's pulse quickened as she realized that the moment she had feared was now practically here. Would she welcome him back, or would his return become yet another reason for her heart to break? The air thickened as she prepared to answer, feeling the weight of the past pressing against her. Could she trust again? Would she have the strength to embrace this family that was shifting right before her eyes? In that moment, everything hung in the balance, and she knew she'd have to decide. Eve hesitated, her chest tightening as she searched for the right words. The laughter around her faded, leaving only the rapid beating of her heart. Mark's hopeful gaze pierced through her defenses, and in that moment, she felt the walls she had so carefully built begin to crack. Mark, it's not as simple as you make it sound, she finally said, her voice steady but soft. You vanished from our lives. We were left to pick up the pieces. For a fleeting moment, Mark looked hurt, the joy in his eyes dimming. I know, he quickly replied, a note of urgency climbing into his voice. And I'm sorry. I've regretted it every day. But I'm here now, and I want to make amends. I want to be part of your world again, Eve. Lily's laughter broke through the tension as she shouted from the top of the slide, come on, Noah. You can do it. The sound tugged at something deep inside Eve. Her children's happiness was so pure, so untainted by the complexities of the past. Noah looked torn, a mix of excitement and confusion written all over his face. Mark's cheerful banter seemed to put him at ease, yet every instinct in Eve urged her to protect him. What if this doesn't last? The unspoken question held the gravity of the unhealed past. Let me just show them who I am, Mark said, his hand still extended toward Noah. I want them to know the uncle they never had a chance to meet. All I ask is for a chance. Tears brimmed in Eve's eyes, wrestling between hope and fear. She could see the joy in Noah's face as he reached for Mark's hand, a spark of trust igniting despite the swirling doubts in her mind. A familiar pang hit her. The longing for sibling connection was something she had buried for so long. Then, moments later, as if responding to a staged cue, Lily stood at the top of the slide, triumphant. Daddy, that's my brother. She called, pointing at the triumphant form of Mark alongside Noah, now giggling with delight. The words hit Eve like a bucket of cold water. Daddy? It made her heart swell and ache simultaneously. Did she dare hope that the bonds of family, even the kinds tangled in loss and absence, had begun to reform before her eyes? Mark turned back to Eve, shock and wonder in his expression. Did she just say that? He asked, his voice catching a bit as he absorbed the weight of those innocent, hopeful words. Eve nodded slowly, realizing how slipstream they were into a moment she never could have predicted. What had just happened felt monumental. This wasn't just a reunion, this was light breaking through the shadows. She felt a warmth beginning to blossom. Could she allow herself to trust again? Could the children's innocent acceptance lead all of them to heal? Okay, Eve said, her heart racing yet steady. We can try. But let's take things slow. A flicker of gratitude crossed Mark's face. Thank you, he whispered, relief flooding his features. Just know that I won't let you hurt them the way you hurt us before, Eve added, her tone firm, yet open-hearted. As laughter rang out, a new energy charged the air, threading hope through Eve's heart. But would this fragile new beginning prove strong enough to withstand the weight of the past? Even as her decision hung in the air, dread settled at the back of her mind, whispering questions of uncertainty. Mark grabbed Noah's hand, and they rushed back to the slide, joined by Lily's contagious laughter, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside Eve's heart. Could she truly embrace this opportunity? Or were they all blindly walking toward yet another heartbreak? As she watched them slip down the slide, her chest ached with conflicting emotions. Perhaps it was time to take a leap of faith herself. The laughter settled around Eve, but inside, a whirlpool of emotions churned. Mark's presence had stirred both hope and anxiety within her. This reunion felt like a tightrope walk, and Eve wasn't sure if she'd make it across without falling. She watched her kids, their spirits soaring as they played. Lily and Noah didn't carry the weight of the past. In their innocence, they opened a door Eve wasn't sure she was ready to walk through. Each giggle from Lily felt like it was chipping away at the walls Eve had built around her heart. Mommy! Watch us! Lily called, her eyes sparkling with joy as she and Noah climbed back up the slide to repeat the rush. The joy in their faces made her chest tighten with conflicting feelings. How could she let Mark in after everything? Yet, she saw Mark kneeling beside them, his smile genuine. He laughed as Noah hesitated at the top of the slide, then coaxed him with words of encouragement. You've got this, buddy. Just go for it. Noah looked back at Eve, searching for reassurance. She felt the weight of his gaze like a physical tug at her heartstrings. She nodded, barely aware of the decision she'd made until she saw her son take a deep breath and push himself off the edge. As he flew down, pure elation erupted from Noah's lips. I did it. Did you see, Mom? He bounced at the bottom, the joy radiating from his small body. Mark's laughter mingled with the children's, creating a sweet symphony that pierced through Eve's carefully constructed armor. For the first time in years, a flicker of something unfamiliar warmed her chest. Maybe it was trust. But doubt crept in, ready to pounce. What if Mark wasn't the same? What if he vanished again, leaving them vulnerable? One wrong step and she could lose everything. Hey, let us try that long slide together. Mark shouted, urging the kids toward another adventure. The way he engaged with them made Eve pause. His gentle, enthusiastic presence was infectious. She took a deep breath. This could either mean a chance for redemption or a recipe for disaster. Yet, as she looked at her children, she knew they deserved to experience a family, even a flawed one. But just as she was beginning to feel that warm flicker of hope, a rustle in the grass caught her attention. "Eve?" A familiar voice, a sharp, unpleasant echo from her past, called. It halted her in her tracks. She turned around slowly, dread creeping in. It was Rachel, a friend from another life, her eyes carrying an unmistakable weight of judgment. The glance she shot at Mark was loaded with implications. Rachel had never approved of Mark, and the tension between them was magnetic, feeling like an impending storm. "Is this your brother?" Rachel's tone dripped with skepticism, making it clear she thought Eve was making a mistake. It felt like the ground shifted beneath her. Eve felt her stomach knot. Could she truly venture into this uncertain territory with Mark holding her heart? With Rachel's eyes boring into her, the laughter of her children began to fade into the background. Just at that moment, Noah called out again, "Mom, look. We're going again." His enthusiasm was bright, but the spark of it felt distant over Rachel's questioning gaze. Every fear Eve had been wrestling with returned full force. Would she be able to navigate this new world she was stepping into? Was she ready to face the inevitable judgment? Eve hesitated. Was she prepared for the potential fallout of rekindling this family bond? As Mark reached for her hand, the warmth of his touch sent her heart racing. A flicker of hope sparked again, but conviction in that hope felt fragile. Would she let Mark in, even with the storm clouds creeping closer? With Rachel watching, the tension thickened, and Eve sensed the moment of truth was on the horizon. Would she take that leap, or would fear once again hold her back? Eve could feel the air turn colder with Rachel's presence. It was like stepping into a shadow, the laughter of her children barely a whisper in her ears. She looked back at Noah, who was scaling the slide again, joy radiating from him like sunlight. Then she glanced at Lily, her little hands gripping the edge of the playground, waiting for Noah to return to start another round of excitement. The moment Mark reached for her hand, she felt warmth, a connection that pulled at her heartstrings as it battled against Rachel's disapproving glare. It took every ounce of her resolve to hold on to that warmth, to remember the laughter shared just moments before. She needed a decision, a split second to determine the course of her family's future. Mark smiled at her, a smile that once had the power to erase her fears. "Come on, Eve. They need us." His voice was rich with encouragement, full of the promise of possible happiness. She could see it in his eyes. He wasn't the same boy she had fallen for. This man had scars of his own, the kind that spoke of growth, understanding, and lessons learned. "Mommy." Lily's small voice cut through the tension, bringing her focus back. "Come play with us." The genuine excitement on her daughter's face was hard to resist. It brought her back to the present, a sun-drenched playground filled with children and laughter, not a bitterly judgmental friend from a past life. With a deep breath, Eve turned to Rachel. "This is Mark," she said evenly, trying to drown out the waves of uncertainty crashing over her. "He is their father." She braced herself for Rachel's response, half expecting a scoff, a laugh of disbelief. Yet, Rachel's eyes widened in surprise before the mask of skepticism slipped right back into place. "But, how can you trust him?" Rachel pressed, her tone icy. Eve squared her shoulders. "I have to. For them." She gestured toward Lily and Noah, who were both bouncing with excitement now, staging an impromptu race back to the top of the slide. "They deserve to have a father who wants to be here." And in that moment, as she watched her children's joy, she began to realize something profound. Allowing Mark back into their lives didn't mean exposing them to the same pain from the past. Perhaps it was an opportunity for renewal, for a broken family to rebuild itself. As the doubt flickered like a candle in the wind, Eve made her choice. "Noah, come here." She called, her heart swelling when her son turned to her with eager eyes. She knelt down, taking his small hands in hers, squeezing tightly. "You're going to have so much fun with your dad today. Would you like that?" His big smile was infectious. "Can we go on the big slide together?" he asked excitedly. "Absolutely," Eve replied, standing back up and exchanging a glance with Mark. Their eyes locked. She could feel the understanding passing between them. Rachel stood there, arms crossed and disbelief etched across her face, but Eve felt empowered. She didn't need approval, she needed faith. "Lily. Noah. Come on." Mark called, holding out his arms as though welcoming them into an embrace. The way his face lit up as they ran toward him silenced Eve's anxieties momentarily. As they piled into the slide together, laughter erupted, echoing against the distant walls of her fears. But just as the joy began to fill the air, Rachel's voice broke through once more, cold and slicing. "Eve, are you really willing to risk your heart again? Risk their hearts?" Like a sudden gust of wind, doubt threatened to breach the fragile peace. Eve turned quickly to her friend, her past fighting against the growing storm in her chest. "Rachel, I can't live in fear anymore," Eve said softly, holding her ground. "We all deserve a chance at happiness, don't we?" Just then, the sound of laughter, deeper and fuller, shifted the atmosphere. Noah's voice rang through the air again, a melody of pure delight that broke through everything. "Daddy. That's my brother." The words hung in the air, heavy with significance, and Eve felt her heart stop. That simple proclamation carried so much weight. It echoed through every worry she had ever held. Rachel's gaze flickered, uncertainty inching into her expression. Eve swallowed hard, knowing this moment marked the crossroads of her life, a leap of faith not just for herself, but for her children. Could this path truly lead to healing and hope? And just what would Rachel's skepticism mean for them moving forward? The playground seemed to fade, leaving Eve standing on the precipice of change. Would she embrace this new chapter, or would she let the fear take hold once more? Eve's heart raced as she battled the knot of uncertainty in her stomach. The laughter of her children mixed with Rachel's judgment, creating a storm of emotions that left her breathless. But standing there, she realized she could either let fear dictate her path or summon the courage to embrace the possibility of a brighter future. "Eve, are you really willing to risk your heart again? Risk their hearts?" Rachel's voice cut through the joy, but Eve felt something shift deep inside her. She could see the innocence in her children's eyes, their carefree laughter echoing through the air. "Yes, I am," she replied firmly, her voice steady and filled with determination. Noah scrambled back to the top of the slide, urging Lily to race him down once more. Their joy was infectious, and it reminded Eve that love could overcome even the darkest shadows of doubt. Mark's smile as he played with them filled her with a sense of hope that had long felt foreign. The swirling doubts began to quiet as she searched for Mark's eyes. He was there with them, encouraging Noah to conquer the tallest slide, urging Lily to push herself. Eve could see the joy radiating from their bond, transforming the weight of the past into the palette of a hopeful tomorrow. "Look at them," Sarah chimed in, standing beside Eve. "Look how happy they are. That's what matters." A flicker of warmth danced in Eve's chest, the truth in her friend's words resonating against her fears. This was her family embracing something new. Lily's laughter cut through the noise. "Mommy, come and watch. We're flying." She lowered her arms, creating a mock airplane as she soared down, the wind whipping through her hair. Then Noah followed, his cheeks flushed with exuberance. They were fearless explorers in their world, the sunlight enveloping their carefree spirits, teaching Eve that love was worth the leap. Eve felt the warmth pushing the doubt from her mind and took a step forward. "Noah," she called, her voice raised above the playful chaos. Her son turned, a wide grin lighting up his face like a beacon. "You're doing such an incredible job. I'm so proud of you." She caught Mark's gaze, and in that look, there was an understanding this was about more than just them. It was about building a family that could withstand any storm. Mark nodded, and she sensed a renewed strength in him, a determination to be a present father. "Together, we'll show them what love means," he said quietly, just for her. Time began to blur as she watched Noah and Lily tear through the playground, their laughter rising like a kite against the blue sky. For the first time in a long while, Eve felt free from the chains of judgment. The past wouldn't define their future, they would write their own story from this moment on. As she grabbed Noah's hand and pulled him in for a hug, his warmth grounded her. "You are my brave boy," she whispered, feeling the layers of fear peel away. Mark joined them, enveloping them both in a family embrace. Rachel's disapproval still lingered, but her voice faded into the background, unable to diminish the joy erupting from their small circle. "Family is what we make it," Eve declared, looking directly at Rachel. "Not what others expect it to be." With her heart resolute, she turned her focus back to her children, their laughter filling the air with echoes of hope. "All right, who's ready for the biggest slide?" she cheered, excitement bubbling up. Noah and Lily jumped up and down, chanting in unison, "Me! Me! Me!" Suddenly, it didn't matter what anyone thought, they were stepping boldly into the adventure that lay ahead. With a smile that reached her eyes, Eve took their hands and led them toward the tallest slide, laughter trailing behind them like a comet's tail. Every upswing of joy felt like a victory. This was their moment, their revelation. As they reached the top, she breathed in deeply, the crisp autumn air filling her lungs. She felt triumphant, grounded in the reality that love conquered doubt, that hope could shine through even the darkest fears, and that together they would face whatever challenges came next. "Are you ready?" she shouted down to Noah and Lily, who nodded vigorously. "On 3. Mark called, holding their hands tightly. 1, 2, 3. And with that, they flew down the slide, laughter cascading around them like a joyful symphony. Eve felt the weight of past regrets lift as she soared down with her children, surrendering to the joy of the moment. They landed in a heap of giggles at the bottom, soaked in sunlight and happiness. New beginnings were abruptly present, bursting with possibilities. In that instant, Eve knew they could make it through anything, together. And as they burst into laughter, every whisper of doubt faded, torching away the shadows that once loomed so heavily. Their future was brighter than ever, lit by the innocent flames of love and connection. Now, it was time to embrace this life wholeheartedly. As the sun set in vibrant colors, Eve realized the battle for acceptance was just beginning. Still, with her family by her side, she was ready for whatever came next. You need to subscribe now to join us on this incredible journey of transformation and hope. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread this beautiful story. Comment your reactions and feelings about this amazing ending, your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting this channel.